Welcome to Dare, the show for innovators, entrepreneurs, and startup leaders who dare to shape the future. Your hosts today are Ned Hayes and Cecilia Mariani. Dare is brought to you by Darwaf, the superpower tech team that can make your vision a reality. The Dare podcast is excited to welcome Anthony Ware to the show today. He's a serial entrepreneur, has a deep wealth of experience in startups and working with founders. And he's the founder of Mental Wealth and the Aware Catalysts, in which he helps founders from all sorts of backgrounds create scalable, positive impact on the world. So welcome, Anthony.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ned. I'm excited for our conversation today.
So first of all, tell me what mental wealth is. What's that all about?
Yes, that's the burning question. So in this world, we have this capitalist world that we're all a part of, and the focus is on accumulating money, accumulating wealth. So when I thought about how to, back in 2019, how to approach helping entrepreneurs with their mental health, I was like, well, how can I parallel that? Because that's what we're always doing, right? Trying to parallel so we can make it accessible and relatable. And so I'm like, why not mental wealth? And the phrase in and of itself isn't new, but how it's applied, how I'm applying it is. So thinking in terms of each and every day, we have an opportunity to do things that benefit the state of our mental health, because too often mental health is talked about in a way that it's something that is, we can pay attention to it when we want, kind of like the cold drink in the fridge. We can pay attention to it when we want. But with mental health, I plant the flag in terms of we have mental health from the time we're born to the time we die, like our heartbeat and our breath. And what happens in between those moments are the state of our mental health changes. So if you're working on building mental wealth, it's much in the same way as your bank account, right? It can be zero, it can be like 18 million. The state changes depending on what you do to make those deposits, and I call them mental wealth deposits along the way.
Got it. Well, and I think of like the metaphor of a battery running down, right? We recharge when we sleep, maybe when we work out, and when we take time off to actually recharge our batteries. I mean, that's a common way of thinking about both your mental health and your capacity to do work.
Yes.
But you're using a different metaphor, which is the idea of a bank account and making sure your bank account doesn't go into debit mode or you're bouncing checks on your capacity, right? It's a different metaphor.
Yeah, exactly. And especially with entrepreneurs, because we're so hyper focused on whatever the metrics of the business are. And then, that we go through in depth about the personas of our clients and our customers and our target markets and all these things. And we focus so much on that we put our health in general, let alone our mental health, in the back seat. And I'm like, well, let's make it in the front seat all the time kind of thing.
Right. Right. So that hyper focus, I want to double click there, go down another level. Tell me about entrepreneurs and hyper focus. Like, I know when I've been doing a startup, I'm like 24/7 on it. My wife is like, maybe you should put the computer down to eat some food, but like, tell me more about your experience in seeing founders go through that kind of hyper focus stage.
Yeah. And just even from my own experience, like my first startup, and by the way, startup, founder, entrepreneur, business owner, to me, if you have clients and you pay taxes and they pay, and your clients pay you, customers pay you, you're running a business. Just like the lemonade stand, kids at the lemonade stand. So you run a business. So thinking in terms of even my own experience, there were times when I was so either focused on the money, that the opportunity to make a lot of money, and then look at the opportunity to make impact, and I was so externally focused to the detriment of myself. So when those things either ended or I had to close them, like my own mental health suffered, whether it was about depression or just anxiety or physical health, like just going out the way, needing to get like a trainer and whatnot. So when I think of the hyper focus of entrepreneurs, I think often we're so externally focused to succeed because of the way that between the media and then the movies and whatnot have put this idea of what it looks like to be an entrepreneur. And I'm seeing what I'm seeing now, especially with the current state of the economies and whatnot, is that the stress has built up. And so like some entrepreneurs are trying to figure out, like, can I keep my business afloat, or is this really what I want to be doing? And So a lot of these things and your identity being linked to the success or failure of the business, which those two
Right.
are not the same, And so those are some of the challenges that I'm seeing along the way.
Wait. You said something super wise there, which I think startup leaders who listen to this podcast would be well to keep in mind. The success of your business is not the same as your identity. So,
Exactly.
like you probably run into people who confuse that all the time. And I mean, it's a good confusion to have on some level, because unless you have a passion and a drive and a like, I must push this car over the cliff and make it work. I don't know what my metaphor was there, but like, I'm going to take this rocket ship. Let's use that metaphor. I'm going to take this rocket ship, and regardless of the impediments in my way, I'm going to launch this rocket ship. People have to have that passion and impetus, but when does it go too far?
It goes too far when, and it's individual, like it's on an individual basis, right? Or it'll look different for each individual, but it goes too far when you realize like all you think about and all you do is your business. And there's a thing of like being focused on being the best you can be and do the best you can do. And oftentimes entrepreneurs make the analogy of professional athletes, elite athletes, look at what they do. I'm like, you actually look at what they do. Like, yes, they are so hyper focused on their sport, but they also have a trainer, they have a psychologist, they have a nutritionist, they have all these people. And then these days, many of the athletes are making sure that they have their ducks lined up after their athlete role is finished. And
Right.
so when it comes to entrepreneurs, it's truly something like there's a level of self awareness that has to be built up, just like our intuition. Intuition isn't is something you can work on. And so in thinking about when is it too far, it's when you notice that all you eat, sleep, and drink and do is your business to the detriment of your life. And that's the way I think about it.
Right. So tell us what kind of a balanced life looks like. Again, this podcast is listened to by a lot of startup people, a lot of entrepreneurs. So back up a little bit. Tell us what a
Yeah.
balanced life might feel like.
Let's see. Oftentimes, when you hear balanced life, the immediate like connection, especially within the last decade or so, has been this whole concept of like work-life balance, which I think is it served its purpose to a certain extent, but really, like I think taking a step back truly is everyone realizing like you have a life and you have only a number of moments in your life. You don't have years. Like just like with your clients, with your business, you have moments in time. And so I think taking a step back and going back, and even if it's like an hour or two, and taking the time to go, okay, what is my life? What is my current lived experience up until this point?
Hmm.
And then jump ahead and go, what kind of life do I really want to be living? Like, who do you want to wake up with? How do you like? Where do you want to wake up? What do you want to be eating? How do you want to spend in your time? All those kinds of like details, almost like you're writing a movie script, if you will.
Mhm.
And then in between those two is this business that you're creating. And whether the business is going to be like you want it to be $1 billion business or whatnot, the business must match up with the life you want to live, not the other way around. And so doing that deep dive, because oftentimes it's the other way around. And that's why now we have like hyper stressed out, substance abuse, all kinds of mental health challenges that come with the choice of being a business owner, right? It's because oftentimes I see somebody doing a business, that'd be cool. But do you realize their business may be something they're building that puts them all out of sorts down the road?
Right. So brings to mind the classic advice, begin with the end in mind, right? Like, where do you want your life or your work or both to be in 5 years, in 10 years? What's the
Mhm.
end goal, right?
Yeah. And a good example, like to make it really concrete, there's a book called Leapfrog by Natalie Molina Nino.
Mm-hmm.
And in it, she shares a story, and I'm probably butchering the story because it's been a while since I read it. But the essence of the story is there's these well-known restaurateurs in New York. They had like a series of restaurants, and to be good in New York, you got to be really good. And so they had phenomenal success. They closed that one or ended that, started a new restaurant, and it was again wildly successful. And everyone's like, "When are you going to open in Paris? When are you going to open in, all these other places around the world, or at least a second location in New York?" And they're like, "No, we're good. We're going to have this business, and then we get to go live our life." So the business fits into their life,
Mm-hmm.
and you could be a restaurant, you could be a laundromat, you could be an AI startup. If the business doesn't fit in your life, then you're setting yourself up for harm and some agony along the way, beyond what normally happens when you start a business.
Yeah. So we understand the problem. So tell me how you, Anthony Ware, actually address this. How do you help people?
Yeah, I think one, I have just the lived experience, so that helps bring some credibility from my first company being a management consulting company, the second company being a logistics company with 4 co-founders, and that's a hot mess. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
uh,
think we learn a lot from things that fail or don't go well, right?
Yeah, exactly. I look back now and I'm like, I'm so glad it happened then versus now. But then I really I just have straight talk with entrepreneurs, a very open, frank conversation about, like, instead of the question of like, what do you do? I'm like, when's the last time you did something that brought you joy? So this is kind of the interactions I have with entrepreneurs. And they're like, I don't know. I don't know what brings me joy. I'm like, see, that's another sign, right? And
Mhm.
then, like, at the beginning, really, kind of like what I said in the practice, I help entrepreneurs take a step back, step away from everything for a second, and do that. It sounds simple, but it's not as simple as it is. But looking at your lived experience, all of your life, and looking at what's happened, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'm not talking just business. I mean, like, where did you like a good time that happened that you were a volunteer, or you had a breakup, or you had a relative pass away. All these
Mm.
things, if you really look at them, and with the caveat of, when you do that, it may stir up and activate some things where you need to step away or get some help, medical professional help. But you start to see the themes that are uncovered. So in many ways, unlike investments where they say past performance doesn't potential upside, when you look at your life, like, you think about it, no one in the history of humanity or in the future of humanity will ever live your unique life. So looking
Mhm.
at your life, you can come up with some theme. You can see the themes that start to kind of coalesce, and so that allows you to then pick the direction of actually things like the business you want, or the type of people you want to work with, or the situation you want to set up. Like, if you want to travel the world or travel anywhere, it doesn't make sense for you to lease office space and have a physical location for your business.
Mhm.
Like, in terms of like it having to be there every day kind of thing. And then that, like, for entrepreneurs, kind of the next piece is really like looking at the life, like, what kind of life do you really want to live? Like, you want to have kids, you want to have a partner, you want to have, I don't know, time to go garden. It's all of those.
Right, right. So it's being able to help people see the whole picture, really, right?
And then
Yeah,
plan accordingly because you're unique.
yeah. Well, one area that you specialize in too, speaking of unique, is you also help kind of what you describe as underestimated founders create real impact. So, what's an underestimated founder and why are they underestimated?
Yes, that's a lot to unpack. But the broader piece of it, underestimated entrepreneurs or founders are people who, I got the phrase from Arlen Hamilton from Backstage Capital, but she, like, the way to think about it is on a broader scale, and I'll bring it to entrepreneurs. Historically, there's a portion of the population, Black, people of color, LGBTQ, in non-binary, of people who have been historically excluded systematically and systemically, and not just in the
Mhm.
US. This is in, when you think of places like the UK, EU, and Nordics, excluded from resources, excluded from, venture funding. That you can see those stats around that. And so that's my population. I'm a part of that group. And what really pointed me to focus on us is that in 2019, there was, I had 1 or 2 articles around entrepreneurs dying by burnout, by death by suicide, or having, like, being hospitalized for a number of reasons. And
Mhm.
the study that's cited, and it's still cited today, was from 2015, around when you hear about entrepreneurs being 2x or more when it comes to substance abuse, burnout, depression, and all these kind of mental health challenges. The study, it's a 2015 study, self-reported, because that's truly kind of the only way you can do studies like this. And 242 entrepreneurs, 70 to 75% of them self-reported as Caucasian male. And
Ah,
yeah, so when you think about it, the results are textually correct, but they don't necessarily fully apply to the lived experience, underestimated entrepreneurs. So that's why I chose to focus. Yeah.
right. So being able to show that more people than just white males can be successful as an entrepreneur and and have had remarkable success in leading companies, in making things happen.
Yeah, and and our lived everyone's lived experience is obviously unique, but like when you think of the weight and the mental challenge, the mental health challenges on the underestimated entrepreneurs, it's there's even more of it, more challenges that aren't quote unquote in the norm.
Right, right. Well, I think one of the challenges is that sometimes you don't have as many models or you don't have as many connections in that world. Like I'm a white guy who did grad work at UC Berkeley and Stanford. I know a lot of people through those connections. But
Mhm.
if someone doesn't come out of that academic world or hasn't lived in the Bay Area, is from a different part of the country, or also started in a different industry, it's like I've totally heard the joke. It's not really a joke, but a lot of people who are kind of fit the standard mold of a tech bro or somebody starting a company, they're really successful and they land on third base and they think they, hit a home run when really, somebody started them at third base. So like your
Yeah,
goal is to get somebody to understand like there are steps to get there and it's not a mystery how to get there, but it's some of those networking steps. It's meeting the right people. It's being able to present yourself and being able to overcome some of this systemic problems that we have and recognizing success in people who, frankly, are not white guys. Let's be honest, because there's some systemic problems there. So if you could,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and it's like you gave a good example in terms of like in thinking of things. Often it's talking about the meritocracy of things, and it's true. It's usually less of a mirror, and I heard this phrase and it really encapsulated. It's more of a meritocracy versus a meritocracy. And so, like my work with underestimated entrepreneurs is really it's helping them like because of my work, like I get access to like different rooms. I mean, I've been around for a while, but so I try to like be either speak someone's name in a room where I'm not, and at the same time, when it comes to especially helping them focus on their mental wealth, it's helping them understand that some of the things that are happening, you're not making it up in your head. That is truly just the reality. You think of like gaslighting and things like that, and it's like, no, it's real. That's real. Like things that are happening to you, and the reason why it's not happening is real. And here's like here's the history of it. Because I think there's a lot of new entrepreneurs that are people that are getting into starting businesses where they're like, is this the norm? Or is it? I'm like, yeah, it's the norm. But here's how we can work on my piece, but also introduce you to people who can help you with your operations, or like if you're looking to get investing or looking to make sure you're bootstrapped, just helping with the mental health is one piece of what I do, but then more of just sharing your lived experience is often more valuable than anything.
got it. Got it. So being able to really connect with other people is an invaluable part of what you do and what you encourage people to do, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's ultimately like we're rolling out. I did a study in 2019, but we're rolling out a larger study this year. And one of my kind of selfish pieces of doing the study is that I get to meet like people from the UK, the EU, and the Nordics and the US, like all these entrepreneurs doing really cool things. And I know just because you live long enough, some things are guaranteed to happen. Along the way, there's going to be a serendipitous moment where I meet an entrepreneur from one geographic area that is like a perfect collaborative partner for another, and being able to introduce them, like I don't want anything out of it except the joy of seeing them like light up, like oh cool, like oh like like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, so definitely being able to connect people and share experience.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference. Well, so you come to this with a great understanding of the entrepreneurial journey. So tell us more about your own entrepreneurial journey. I know you mentioned you had some experiences that were not so good, but you have a wealth of experience to add. So tell us about what you bring in.
Yeah. So I always tell people my first job ever and my first introduction to entrepreneurship and being around a business owner, my first job ever was cleaning toilets for my dad's
Ah,
janitorial company. He had a contracting business, but yeah, my two brothers and I were his helpers. I mean, he had some friends that helped occasionally, but we'd go and help him clean, dust, vacuum, all those things that janitors do.
yeah,
And then fast forward, like I did corporate America. Yeah, I worked in corporate America, and interesting enough, like my last corporate gig was working in corporate real estate, commercial real estate broker and advisor. So mostly with people who are leasing up space. And it was cool because in many ways that was another kind of relationship and understanding and exposure to entrepreneurs, because I worked with primarily startups in kind of the biotech life sciences space. And then I left on the advice of actually one of my then real estate clients, that she's like, hey, you love all the parts about a business, She's like, the real estate's just one piece of it, but there's these things called management consulting. And this is back in, I think, like 2008. No, this is early 2000. And so I started a management consulting company with some of my former real estate clients being my my client. And
Right.
yeah, and so that led into starting a logistics company, fourth party logistics, basically managing margins to create value. And that ended lots of lessons from having four co-founders, lots of lessons about chasing the money versus actually chasing the life I wanted to live. Then I started a cloud computing company. And this is again 2010, 9, and 10. And it was a security company, had a partnership with Purdue's Sirius, I think they call it, like Center for Research on Information Security and Assurance. So had a partnership with them because as an alumnus, I got a great deal to be a partner. So side tangent, if you are running a company, check with, and you graduated from university or have a relationship with the university, check with the programs they have for small businesses, because oftentimes there's a lower cost for you to become a partner with them than if you just came in as a corporate member. So did that. That failed miserably. And I can laugh now, but like I started the company, had it. It was a great idea, licensed some technology, but ran out of my investors, ghosted me. Yes, they were ghosting even, what was that, 10 years ago? I got accepted to an accelerator, but didn't have the runway to go through the accelerator down in New Orleans. And actually ended up sleeping in my car for like a week. And
Trying
then
to sort out what was next. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, because of Twitter back then, I ended up meeting a very cool entrepreneur, and I was a customer, and then became a team member of this company called Feel Goods, and so got to learn about business. We sold into Whole Foods, so learned, I don't know what that market vertical is or whatever, but so did that, but basically was like right step in step with the founder. So again, like that relationship with founders. And then around 2014, I worked with in supplier diversity. So I had a mentor who was like, "Hey, I know you need some work. Come work with me." And basically, he and I worked with like Fortune 500s and the government on helping like source like $1 million contracts for underestimated entrepreneurs. And then I think this part of my chapter, this journey, like started in 2014 when I learned about Zappos.
Yeah.
And I had a mentor who actually consulted Zappos as they were finishing up their happy employees, all that, the business case. And he's like, this is where business is going. So I started like taking what Zappos, the big billion-dollar company, was doing and minimized it or shrunk it down to work with small businesses and startups.
Yeah.
And so happy employees, happy business. And then I started to look, I'm like, so whatever's happening to employees is a direct result of the environment that the leadership team allows. And then whatever the leadership team allows is a direct result of what's going on with the health of the leadership team. And then 2019 was kind of where roads crossed. And so you look at what I mentioned earlier about the study and everything going on. And I was like, you can complain about it or do something about it. And if you're going to complain about it, you got like 24 hours and then you shut up. You can't complain anymore. And so then that's when I started focusing on founder mental wealth, because the way I see it, if I help a founder with their mental wealth, whether their business succeeds or fails, they are still getting better as a human. And then if they have a business where they hire people, you're able to help them be better humans while they're part of your business, which then helps the communities they go out to. And so it's just kind of this ripple effect of one to many by being one to one.
Right. Got it. Well, I want to go back to the beginning of your journey, though, because you struck me as saying something that I think, frankly, a lot of tech bros are going to jump on and say, like, yeah, I did that too. But I don't think all of them have the lived life experience of cleaning toilets. And the reason I mention this is that back in March, Jensen Huang, who founded NVIDIA, and now it's worth 1.2 trillion with a T. He said back in March that he used to clean toilets as a young person, and he believes no task is beneath anyone. He said, no task is beneath me at this company because I used to be a dishwasher and I used to clean toilets. And so being able to say, I can do all the things and I'm not afraid or humiliated by doing work, I think that's a key attribute for any entrepreneur. Being a startup leader or being a company leader, you have to be humble. You really have to be able to learn and be able to do all the tasks. And I think you and Jensen Huang are in the same world there.
I'll take it. I'd love to meet with him less about NVIDIA, but just more about, I mean, anybody that says that publicly, because a lot of people say that privately. Yeah, here's my work, and like I think you're spot on. Like with there's a lot of my lived experience. Dad's janitor, but even when like there's the gaps between my businesses, I had friends because I made sure to have a life outside of my business. I had friends that were like, hey, we need a night cleaner for our restaurant. So I'd go in, and it was a pub, so it wasn't like a full blown
Yeah,
restaurant,
yeah.
but I'd go in and clean the restaurant at night to make ends meet while I was figuring out things. And so, like, to your point, I think a lot of people who say they do it, but I'm like, if it came down to it, they'd be
Have
like,
you
this is above
actually
me.
done the work? Are you willing to
Yeah.
actually put the sweat in? Because it's not easy doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And you don't do it to get a pat on the back. You just do it because, well, it just needs to be done. That's,
Mhm.
that's, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, this has been really fascinating talking to you. So, if somebody wanted to work with you and understand how to balance their life a little better and how to be more successful beyond just the moment in time when they're delivering a startup, how would they get in touch with you? How would they work with you?
Yeah. So the best way to get in touch with me, I'll give two places. So the first one is I'm on LinkedIn. And if you look up founder mental wealth, Anthony Ware, it'd be easy to find me. Or my LinkedIn extension is, or whatever they call that, the end of it is Anthony Ware.
Okay. And just so everybody listening, it's WARE, right?
Correct. ANTHONYWARE. And then actually the general place is millions of people out there. I have a link tree, and the link tree is just Anthony Ware. So those are the two places that have all the available links. And the way we work together is we first do like a 45-minute session, and then that first session really goes in depth to bring out some of the main issues, and then I give you either, hey, here's the do it yourself, or here's the work with me. And yeah, I've had it done both ways.
hmm Got it. So, just to wrap this all up, you work with founders, you work with people to help them and their lives to get balanced. What do you dare to dream yourself, Anthony?
Oh, so for me, the two parts of like my big dream, and this is just my ideal life, is I have a place that's as least impacted by climate change as possible in the world. That's in Olive Grove, like 408 acres, a villa. And when I say a villa, I want like a place that actually has like old bricks and mortar kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I live there, I work from there, and have other places around the world. And then I'm helping with mental wealth on Earth, and then helping plant the seed for life beyond Earth. Because
hmm
we'll get there, but maybe not in my lifetime. But that's what I'm doing.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for your time today, Anthony. Really appreciate the conversation.
Thanks so much, Ned. This has been great.
Yeah. Thanks to our guests today for their great insights on Dare, the podcast for innovators, entrepreneurs, and startup leaders. If you'd like your story to be featured on Dare, just contact us at info@darwaft.com. Dare is brought to you by Darwaft, the tech team that can make your vision a reality.